Hi, my name is Kim Mutcherson, co-dean of Rutgers Law School in Camden, and this is The Power of Attorney. Well, it looks like this is going to be the last taping that we do for this semester, and I am extremely excited that I have with me two absolute leaders of the law school, Lex Wisner and Sarah Ballentine, who've been kind enough to give us some time today to talk about their experiences as law students and sort of what they see beyond the horizon. So, Lex and Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So, what I like to do with everybody who comes on the show is ask them for their origin story. And what I mean by that is, obviously there are lots of things that a person can do with her life, and you all decided to choose law school. So, talk to me a little bit about what was it about the law? Were you one of those people who decided at 5 years old that you were going to be a lawyer? What brought you to law school in the first instance? Lex, why don't you answer that question first?
Sure. So I never really knew that I was going to go to law school, but my parents, on the other hand, have been telling me since I was about 3 years old. So they always know best, of course. But I actually wound up taking a gap year after college. So I actually started at community college. I went to Brookdale Community College in Central Jersey. And then I transferred to Rutgers, New Brunswick. And I majored in criminal justice and psychology. And I took a gap year because I wasn't sure what to do with either of those. It didn't really seem like any career path that was offered to me was kind of what I wanted to do. So during my gap year, I volunteered at the local courts near my house back in Middlesex County, and I just wanted more experience in that area. Mm-hmm. I originally went because I thought I wanted to practice in family law, but once I started law school, it completely changed. But I'm very happy that I started.
Excellent. Sarah, what about you?
Similar to Lex, I actually have a sort of unconventional path. I think I began my career in hospitality. Actually, I've been working in a restaurant since I was 16, and I love it. I love working with people and just having coworkers and having all of these regulars at the restaurant, hearing their stories, just things that were going on in their lives, having a child that's unable to move out because their child's shackled with student loan debt, servers losing their homes in a time when our state had one of the highest numbers of foreclosure rates in the nation, and just feeling kind of helpless and unable to help these people that I cared about made me start thinking that I could serve people in a greater capacity than just serving them food. So I began interning in the office of U.S. Senator Cory Booker in Camden, and they have a wonderful group of people over there. And I really found my home in constituent advocacy, and that's how I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And I just noticed that a lot of people who were really advancing and helping people had their JDs. And so that's when I decided that I wanted to go to law school. And it was important for me to pick a school that was in South Jersey, that was in the community of the people that I want to serve someday. And that's why I picked Rutgers Law School.
Excellent. So I wanted to go back to you just for a second, Lex, because one of those things that I have found really interesting over the last, 18 plus years that I have been at Rutgers Law School is the number of students who take the path that you took in terms of, community college and then transferring to a 4-year university and then ending up at law school. And we've actually had the experience that some of our, most successful law students are folks who have taken that path. So just for people who are listening, who are kind of trying to figure out, different routes to get to a particular end. Why is that the route that you took? I mean, was that something that was really focused for you? You knew you were going to do community college first and then transfer to another college, or did it sort of fall into your lap? I'm just curious.
Yeah, of course. So when I was in high school, I wasn't actually sure what my paths were going to be. Both my parents actually did not attend college. And I'm the firstborn, so I was a first generation student. So we all kind of figured together collectively that it would be better if I went to community college first. One, because it was a lot cheaper. And again, I wasn't really sure how to navigate the whole collegiate world, let alone a 4-year college. So I think it was a good start for me to kind of get my bearings and see what it was all about. I didn't know that I was going to transfer to Rutgers, New Brunswick. I applied to quite a few places. And actually, when When I was in high school, I think I did apply to Rutgers. I'm pretty sure I did, but I didn't get in. I got into their business school, but I didn't get into their actual school, which was a
Hmm.
little confusing. So that kind of put me back on the community college route. And I'm very happy it did, because I would recommend that to anyone who isn't sure if they want to dive right into a 4 year, because it is a lot of work. It's a lot of money. And if you don't really know what you're going for, I think community college is a better start. I did major in psych at Brookdale. And then when I transferred to Rutgers, my psych major was basically done, which is why I took on another major in criminal justice.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, as I said, we've had some folks over the last several years who did exactly that route, community college to a 4 year into law school. There was a period of time where we had, a couple of the executive, the EICs, the editor in chiefs of the law review were folks who had done exactly that path. So, I think it's a really nice lesson about the different ways that people can end up in the same place, which I think is really, really useful for people to hear. So thank you for sharing that with us. You also said, Lex, that you are a first gen student, which is something that we have a number of at Rutgers Law School. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like, and, sort of how you found community in law school as somebody who didn't, have a bunch of lawyers in your family or other people who had forged that path for you?
Yeah, sure. It was actually kind of quite surprising coming to Rutgers, because I originally thought law school, oh, everybody's parents are lawyers or doctors or, kind of well off. That's the image I had of going to law school, all these people that were a little more privileged than, say, I grew up as. But there was, like you said, a lot of students who actually didn't have these types of backgrounds, and a lot of students who didn't have parents that were in the law. And it's not even like I had to go searching for them. They just were all around me. So it was really comforting to see that not everybody came from that place. And I just think Rutgers is pretty diverse in that area.
Mhm. Thank you. So, Sarah, I want to go back to you. So, are you a person who has lawyers in your family?
No, similar to Lex, my dad's a car mechanic. My mom is a nurse with her associate's degree. So I'm one of the first women in my family and my extended family to have a graduate degree and have a JD. So it's been really amazing because I am one of 18 grandchildren, and
Wow.
all of them are girls. And on the older end of the girls who are going out and working on these higher education degrees, it's been really just amazing for my family and my little girl cousins to be able to be somebody that I feel like they can look up to and say that, it is possible for a woman to go out and do all of these things, because I didn't have that example to follow. I was told that me and my sisters, we were told, we could be anything that we wanted to be, but to have a girl in the family go out and do it, I think that that would have been really helpful to have. And I'm really happy that I get to be that for my cousins.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I think, one of the things that I have really enjoyed about being a professor and now somehow the dean at Rutgers, is watching the range of people who come through our doors, and particularly watching the students who are first gen students, because you can sort of watch this transformation, because it's not just a transformation of the individual person, as you suggest, Sarah, it can really be a transformation for a family, which I think is such an amazing a journey. And so, congratulations to both of you, because you're really marking a distinct shift in some ways in the future of your family, which I think is fantastic. So let's talk about law school a little bit. So both of you were coming into the law school environment as people who didn't have background in it, didn't have folks to kind of tell you how to do this journey. And Lex, you talked about how it was comforting to find other people who had similar backgrounds as you. So Sarah, can you talk a little bit about what your transition to law school was like? I mean, you'd had this experience of working in Cory Booker's office, doing constituent advocacy. So did law school sort of live up to what your expectations were? Did it live down to what your expectations were? What was that transition like for you?
Well, I always tell, the 1Ls, especially when I had the privilege and the pleasure of addressing them at orientation, that, there's really just no way to prepare for law school because it is such a different animal. I think one of the best aspects of law school, though, is that people think that there's only one avenue to go to law school, and that's, the criminal justice major. And what I find from talking to the 1Ls and from my own experience is that really once you get into the door, once you've taken the LSAT, it's a blank slate and we all start off at square one and nobody really knows what they're doing those first couple of weeks and maybe even those first couple of months. I did try to prepare for law school the summer before I started by reading books about what law school would be like. I think one is called 1L of a Ride. And I think that did get my mental space correct to try to figure out what I was in for. But you really just don't know until you start it. And it is comforting to know that everybody is in the same boat. You know, a lot of people are just as intimidated and nervous as you are, but it goes away. And I think the best aspect is all the people around you who are supporting you through the process. Law school has definitely lived up to my expectations. I think that I'm a much better advocate today than I was the day I started. And that was the goal. So for me, it's been extremely worthwhile and just an incredible experience.
Great, thanks. What about you, Lex? What were those first few weeks or months of law school like?
Not not good. It was difficult. I mean, I came in thinking, hey, in undergrad I had like a 3.8 and or something like that, who even remembers anymore. But I was so ready. I was like, yes, I'm great at school. I'm smart. I got this. And granted, sure, yes, I'm smart, but so is everybody else that got into Rutgers Law with us. So I actually did summer jumpstart. And again, I thought I was crushing it. And I got my grade back first semester of 1L year, and I did not crush it at all. And it was definitely an eye opener. I think if I got my score back before the first semester started, I'm not even sure if I would have continued because it was kind of disheartening. But at the same
Mm.
time, seeing that really woke me up, and I just pushed even harder first semester. My grades definitely improved, but then by the second semester, I was really trying. I kind of learned the balance a little bit, and my grades have just skyrocketed since then. So it's been a journey, but it's been a good one.
Yeah, it can be humbling, definitely. Very true. So you talked about doing Summer Jumpstart, Lex. So just for folks who don't know what that is, Summer Jumpstart is an opportunity that we create for students who are entering as 1Ls to take a course. It's been contracts for years and years now. Take a single course over the summer before they actually officially start their first year of law school. It's not an admissions program. It's all folks who have already been admitted to the law school and who we know are going to be first year students. So Jumpstart is a really interesting option that we make available to people. So Lex, why did you decide that you wanted to do Summer Jumpstart and beyond the sort of humbling experience, academic experience of it, was it a good experience? Does it feel like it was a good choice for you to start law school a little bit early?
So actually, I got this question a lot at some of the orientations or Dean's Law Day that events that we've put on. And my answer is always that I highly recommend Summer Jumpstart because for me, it was definitely a humbling experience. But I think it does give you kind of a view into what you're in for. Again, some students come in thinking that we're all prepared for this and, we've done school for however many years and we're ready. But again, I think the humbling experience of it is a great part of it. And on the other hand, there are some students who excel in Summer Jumpstart and they,
Mm-hmm.
kind of reaffirms their decision, which is also a great way to start law school. So I think either way, whether, you did great or you didn't do too well or as well as you wanted to, I think it was a great experience overall. And it really prepares you for, the next 3 years.
Yeah. What about you, Sarah?
I did not do Summer Jumpstart, and I wish that I had. I think that I would have really benefited from it just to take one of those classes off your course load in the fall. I think while you are trying to adjust and acclimate to the rigors of law school, I think that it is extremely beneficial. I wish I had done it. One thing that I will say is that people have pointed out to me who didn't do Jumpstart is that when you have to take, a lot more courses in the spring after having a lighter load in the fall from doing Jumpstart, it can seem a little overwhelming. So some people prefer to just get that initial shock over with in the fall. So I think there's pros and cons to it, but personally, I wish I had done the Jumpstart program.
Got it. One of the things that we say all of the time to students as during orientation, during admitted students day, is whatever your undergrad experience was like, law school is not undergrad. It's a very different learning environment. The expectations are different. The way that we teach is different. The pressure in some ways often is different for students. I would love to hear the two of you sort of talk about that aspect of law school, that it really is not the same as being an undergrad. So sort of, the point that you were making, Lex, super smart kids who show up on day one and start going to classes and think, I have no idea what is going on here.
Yeah, and I was definitely one of those students. I had no idea what was going on in any of my classes, to be completely honest with you. I really didn't. Like I've said before, and like you said before, Dean Mutcherson, these students come in as, some of the top students in their undergrad, and we're excited to start learning. But law school, it's a different way of learning, and they definitely teach you a different way of thinking, which has been difficult. It's kind of been a roller coaster, ups and downs of how to actually formulate arguments. But I think overall, it has helped me more so analyze arguments better, read better. My reading comprehension was not the best for law school. And I think it has drastically improved because of law school.
What about you, Sarah? How would you, if somebody said to you, how is law school different from undergraduate school? How would you describe it?
Again, it's a completely different animal. I talked to so many people who in undergrad said that, they never really read for class, they skipped classes. And you can't do that here. You have to read for every class. You have to attend every class. If you're struggling, you have to go get help, and you have to go to office hours. Professors and the administration, they want to see you succeed, but there isn't as much hand holding in law school. And I mean that in the best way possible. As Lex said, it is changing the way you think. I remember one class, I think it was in civil procedure, the professor cold called and he just asked me, did you think the Supreme Court got this right? And when I had read the case, I just thought because it was the Supreme Court saying it, that of course it was correct. And it completely blew me away that I was allowed to disagree with the Supreme Court and tell the professor that I thought they got it wrong. That had never happened to me in undergrad. So it is a completely different animal. It's going to change the way you think, and you can't just skate by the same way that you did in undergrad. It requires a lot more work.
Yeah,
If
definitely.
I could piggyback off that a little bit more, kind of what Sarah said.
Oh, sure.
So Sarah talked about how in undergrad, students didn't read or whatever, they kind of breezed by. Again, I was that student. I was one of those students. You just kind of felt like you understood the material. But like Sarah said, you definitely have to go to office hours. And that was actually a really big part of my time at law school. I went to so many office hours with so many of my professors, and I've actually fostered pretty great relationships with a lot of professors at this school. So I think that's also something that's different than undergrad, maybe because it's a smaller school, Rutgers Law School. There's, what is it, about 150 or so, give or take, depending on the class, students in each year. And I went to Rutgers, New Brunswick, where I don't even know how many students were in that. I'd have classes full of 400, 500 people, whereas law school is about 150 in just your year. So those are the people you're with the entire time. And you learn to love them, love your professors, and it's really more of a community than, if I guess my experience, going to a larger scale school. So I really liked that as well.
I think that's actually a really useful segue, Lex, because I think one of the things that, I'm always urging students to do is to get to know their professors and to get to know them outside of class, whether it's going to office hours or professors who take students out for lunch or, other things that professors do in order to get to know their students. And I think, there are lots of reasons why that is a good thing. It's a way of networking. It's a way of letting people get to know you if you need recommendation letters. But it's also a way, I think, of helping introduce people to the profession. And it's also a way of reminding folks that you're an adult. We want to treat you like an adult, and we want to treat you like somebody who is about to enter into a profession. And I definitely think that professors can seem very intimidating when they're standing in front of the classroom, and there's something really magical and powerful, I think, about spending time with professors outside of class. So thank you very much for saying that, Lex. I think that's really an important point. I wonder for you, Sarah, whether there are particular professors who you remember over your years of law school who were really impactful for you.
Of course, starting with Professor Roger Clark, who teaches
Mhm.
international law. I was lucky enough to be asked to be his research assistant my 2L year, and that was an amazing experience for the same reasons that you talk about. You see them giving these lectures and you've seen their CVs, and they're very all impressive people. And then they ask you to be their research assistant, and it involves just hours and hours of helping them with research or filing all of their many writings and things that they're issues that they're following. And you just talk to them one on one as people. And it is demystifying, but it's also, you learn so much that way. So definitely Professor Roger Clark. I know that so many professors are committed to sort of breaking down that barrier and interacting one on one with students. I know I was lucky enough to have Professor Afalelo for contracts, and he was always taking groups of students out into the city for dinner so that we could just connect with him one-on-one. Professor Kovacs, who teaches property, she's fantastic like that as well. I think she took a small number of students out for happy hours every month. And so that was a great experience. And Professor Stein, who teaches civil procedure, he would take select students out for lunch every week, and you would just sign up for slots. And all of those things were so helpful when you are this scared 1L to just realize that they are people just like you, and they're approachable, and that they want you to approach them. They want to have that kind of relationship where you feel comfortable asking them for help when you need it.
Absolutely. So I want to segue a little bit into talking more broadly about the law school experience, in particular, talking about being a woman in law school. One of the things that I'm really proud of, it's not something that I did myself, obviously, but I'm still really proud of it, is that, for quite some time now, it's been the case that women are about half of law school classes across the country, which is really terrific. Obviously, when you get out into the profession, we start to continue to see a real gap in women being able to be in some of the sort of top positions at law firms and other legal organizations. But in law schools, we've really, I think, seen just amazing success from our female law students. And both of you obviously are perfect examples of that, of people who got really engaged in the law school community, have taken on leadership positions in the law school, and are real examples of female success in law school. And I hope you all feel that way about yourselves. But let's talk a little bit about that experience of being a woman in law, which we know to still be a really male dominated profession.
My 1L summer, I interned at the Attorney General's office in their Department of Children and Families. And three of us, the three that interned at the Department of Children and Families, we were all female, which was really interesting. But then once you got to the attorneys, they were actually all male, which was an interesting dynamic. But everybody there was just so helpful and so enthusiastic that we were there to learn this area of law. I started there and I worked one on one with Deputy Attorney Generals, one of them, and he was wonderful, very supportive. And you would see that everybody really in the office was very supportive. So it's actually been it's been pretty great going into these practice areas, seeing that, at least in my experience, a majority of the attorneys are males, but having them, obviously treat you just like every other attorney there. And it's been a great experience.
Great. What about you, Sarah?
Given, the election, I actually was torn between going back to school for my JD or to pursue a graduate degree in journalism. And after the election of President Trump, I made the decision to go to law school instead, because I didn't want to just write about the law. I wanted to one day help change the law. And that came from just seeing how I feel the law has treated women in the past on issues. So being a female in law school, going on to be the president of the Student Bar Association, and having my background in politics and in government, we just talk so much about what it means to be a female leader. And in politics, there's just so much added pressure to a woman to be a leader, you have to credentialing yourself. You also have to be likable. You have to be approachable, but you have to be aggressive. And it just seems like there's so many things that a woman in the legal profession has to be, that I just don't think that men probably have those same kind of pressures and those same kind of often contradictory expectations. And that's something that being president of the Student Bar Association has helped me learn to try to balance all of the push and pull of all of those things. And I was lucky enough to be selected for an Eagleton Fellowship, which is a program for students who show an aptitude or an interest in political leadership. And that's something that we talk a lot about as well, as all those things that we talk about, the push and pull that is based on women leaders. And I think that my experiences in law school have helped just sort of try to figure all of that out in a space that was safe and supportive.
And you also had a leadership position in the law school, Lex, with the 3L class. What made you decide that you wanted to? I mean, you can put your head down and just get through law school, but you decided to add more to your plate by being a leader in the law school. What made you decide to do that?
I've always been interested in leadership positions. I guess it's just kind of in my DNA. I like being in leadership positions because I like working with people, which kind of sounds ironic because you hear leadership and you don't think teamwork, but that's really what it is. So I love working with people, and I really like making sure that everybody's voices are heard. So that was something that was very important to me. When I first started 1L year, I went to the first SBA meeting, the first Student Bar Association meeting, right off the bat, because I was really excited and I wanted to see how the politics of law school worked. And I ran for a 1L rep position, which was just being one of the voices of the first year students. And then at the end of that year, I actually ran for vice president, which kind of ties into the question before about being a woman in law school. I feel like that was one of my most difficult elections because I went up against another very qualified student who was a male. And it did kind of scare me a little bit because there is this kind of air of, oh no, he's a male. He, has a better chance of winning because that's what you see in the world. All of our leaders that we see, all of the presidents that we've had are males. And so I was a little nervous about that. And I campaigned my butt off. And I think it was well worth it because I did win that position and it felt great. I felt really proud of myself. I received an overwhelming amount of support, and even the person that I ran against, he called me right away and, screamed his congratulations. And it was all very cordial, which was great, but it still was, kind of scary. But after that, after the vice president run, I decided to continue and run for the president of the 3L class. And that has been a wonderful experience. Definitely a roller coaster, but a wonderful experience nonetheless.
Absolutely. I want to ask you all a couple more questions before I let you out of here. And, one of the things that I want to talk about is that you are ending your law school career in an extraordinary time. So we switched to remote learning after spring break. So all of your classes went from being in person to being online. Everybody moved off campus. We shifted from a grade system to a pass-fail system, while the world around us was also becoming very, very scary. Obviously, this is an experience that you're going to remember for the rest of your lives. And I wonder if you can share sort of, what that transition was like. It's your last year of law school, you're in your last semester of law school, the last few months of your last semester of law school, and all of this madness is going on around you. How did you cope with that?
I have to say that from my upbringing, I was homeschooled my entire life. So working from home feels second nature for me. And I'm incredibly lucky to be able to say that because I know that it's not the same. It's not the case for a lot of my classmates. So as a member of the Student Bar Association, understanding that just because it's personally fine for you, but it's extremely not fine for a lot of your classmates. I remember talking to some students who suddenly were now homeschooling their children and trying to teach them themselves very difficult material that I can't imagine trying to teach myself at home while also teaching a small child. We had students who may have had slower internet or didn't have access to a lot of the technology that they needed to survive these things. So while it was okay for me, I'm very lucky and privileged to say that I was keenly aware that it was really hard on a lot of my classmates. And I think the most stressful part of it for me was not learning from home or coping with any of that. It was actually just trying to figure out ways for the Student Bar Association to be there for those students who were having difficulties that I wasn't having. One thing that was, sort of disappointing was being part of the Hunter Moot Court program, which is something that I'd wanted to do my entire law school experience and is helmed by the wonderful Professor Gotthelf. Those competitions got moved to an online format and got cut short a little bit. That was a little disappointing, but I'm still really grateful that I got that opportunity. And for students who do a lot of pro bono work, obviously those opportunities were cut short too, which was disappointing because, I'm used to doing pro bono through the Domestic Violence Project, and obviously you can't go to the court and counsel plaintiffs the way we were used to. So minor disappointments, but mostly I'm just impressed by how watching all of my classmates, how they pulled through it.
Yeah. What about you, Lex? What is your experience of disruption been?
I lived in Central Jersey before coming down to South Jersey. And so my entire support system is up in Central, and I'm about an hour and a half away from my family. So sitting in my apartment in Voorhees alone every single day was definitely difficult. But that first week, and I think Sarah can attest to this, we both didn't really have any time to think about, this kind of sucks. We're home alone and we got to figure out how to navigate all this, new learning, because of the fact that our entire school also had to navigate through all of this new learning, this new environment. Like Sarah said, some people had to homeschool their kids, people were losing jobs. So at that point, it wasn't even about us. And at least for me, it took me out of the realm of, oh man, this sucks for me. Because I think we both went into almost overdrive of trying to make sure that it was easier for everybody else before we thought about ourselves. I know that we put out a lot of polls asking students how they felt on the pass fail option, if they wanted it to be mandatory or optional, or even if they wanted it at all. Overwhelming response was that everybody wanted pass fail, whether they were optional or mandatory. They all wanted pass fail, at least as an option, which was great to see that the student body wanted that. Our graduation obviously was kind of up in the air of it just being completely canceled. We didn't even have an option of virtual or postponement in the very beginning. So we also sent a letter to President Barchi about our desire to have a postponed commencement. And I think taking into consideration everybody else's worries at least helped me kind of push mine to the side. And I did deal with them a little bit later, obviously, but it felt a little bit more manageable because I knew that at least we did something to kind of alleviate other students' worries.
Yeah, I love that. And that, I think that is a real mark of great leadership, from both of you, that you took this opportunity not to sort of tunnel into yourselves, but to think about the responsibility that you had taken on as leaders in the law school, and how could you be advocates for your classmates? How could you, provide comfort to them? How could you talk to the administration on their behalf? So I think that, our students were really well served that the two of you were sort of at the helm during this period of time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what comes next. Part of this disruption in life is a disruption in what sort of normally happens at the end of law school, right? The bar exam has been disrupted. And depending upon where you're taking the bar, you might be taking it in July or you might be taking it in September. I know that some folks are waiting to hear what's happening with, whatever job that they had post law school. So where do you all stand with that stuff? You two, I can just tell you with absolutely no hesitation at all that you two, no matter what happens, are going to land on your feet and be wildly successful. So, but what do you see the next few months looking like for you as you graduate into this really unexpected set of circumstances?
For me, I guess the mindset hasn't shifted all of that much because, you do know that as soon as you graduate, the hard work really isn't over because then you go right into your bar prep class. So I'm looking forward to starting that soon. So really just trying to pass the bar. And it is a little frustrating that it's been moved from, July to I think now it's September.
Right.
The work still has to be put in. It's just the goalpost has gotten moved now, which is upsetting. But, just focusing on passing the bar. Personally, I'm just trying to think instead of seeing obstacles, just look for the opportunity instead and try to make the best of the situation. So right now for me, that's just keeping my head down and trying to pass the bar in September. I wish I had a more glamorous answer, but that's what it is.
Yep, that's a glamorous answer for this point in your life. Passing the bar is important. What about you, Lex?
Kind of piggybacking off of what Sarah said about seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. Yes, the bar did get pushed back to September, but we can still start studying now. So for
Right.
me, I actually started last week just because my finals were over and I wanted to get a jump start on it because, like I said, in the beginning of law school, it was kind of hard for me to do well in my 1L year. And these are the bars based on 1L year courses. So I want to get a jump start on that. To me, it gives me an extra month to kind of get started and redo things if I need to, take practice tests, take more practice tests. So I'm actually happy about that, which probably isn't a general consensus among most of my peers. I actually am kind of happy that the bar did get pushed back because, again, it does allow us more time to study. Unfortunately, so I have been working at a law firm for the past year, and I was hoping to continue working there after graduation as an attorney, but because of certain circumstances, that's not really a guarantee anymore. So I am kind of looking for clerkships right now, which again is an opportunity in itself because I thought I was going to jump right into practice, which would have been really exciting. But now it gives me an opportunity to hopefully get a clerkship.
So last question for both of you. We are, currently admitting students. We have a bunch of students who have deposited who plan to be Rutgers Law students in August when the semester starts again. If you could just offer one piece of advice to these folks who, like you're leaving law school at this very strange time. They'll be starting law school at a very strange time. So what's one little nugget that you would want to give to them as they start on this journey of becoming a Rutgers Law trained lawyer?
What I always tell the 1Ls is just savor every moment of law school because believe me, you blink and it's over. Every time I would walk into that building, I would just be overcome with this great sense of pride and just this feeling that I was so lucky to be there. And that feeling never left. Even now, as I can't physically enter the building, it's still with me, but the 3 years, they're over before you know it. I think something I wish I had known earlier going in is, when you're starting law school, you're given this checklist that everyone tells you have to do. You have to do a journal and you have to be on student government and you have to do a moot court. And those things are valuable experiences and that's great advice. But don't have a checklist approach to law school. It is your own unique experience and it's going to be over before you know it. So make sure that you do the things that you believe in and that you can pour your heart into and that will bring you personal gratification because it's too short to be doing things that you didn't really want to do. Just find the things that you care about and make them yours and do them to the best of your ability and do the best you can. And that's what I would tell the incoming class.
Great. Lex?
So law school is difficult. It is. There's no way to get around that. And it's very important to study and work hard. But you also shouldn't overwork yourself because you don't want to get burnt out. So for me, my first year was difficult because I was putting my all into school and I thought I was doing great, but I didn't give myself time to relax or to even really watch a movie or hang out with friends. So it's important to, of course, do your work, study hard, and work really hard at excelling. But there's a balance that you really need to take. And I think that's kind of difficult for a lot of first year students. But if you have that balance down, it makes law school definitely a bit more enjoyable. And once I found that balance, I actually found that I was doing a lot better in school because I was able to actually take these breaks and relax a bit and not stress too much. There's still stress, but not stress too much.
Exactly. You got to have a cap on that stress, definitely. Well, that's great advice from both of you. I want to, again, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today about your experiences as law students at Rutgers Law. You both have given so much to the institution. You'll be deeply and sorely missed. And I am just completely looking forward to the greatness that both of you are going to have in your careers as lawyers. And I know that we're going to be incredibly proud that we're the ones who got to train you before you went out into the world. So thank you again. Stay safe, and I will see you at real graduation in December.
Thank you, Dean Mutcherson.
Thank you, and thank you for everything you've done this year.
The Power of Attorney is produced by Rutgers Law School. With 2 locations, minutes from Philadelphia and New York City, Rutgers Law offers the prestige and reputation of a large, nationally known university with a personal small campus experience. Learn more by visiting law.rutgers.edu.